Hello and welcome to the FCICA webinar series. Thank you for joining us. This webinar will be recorded and housed on FCICA's educational portal. All attendees will receive a follow-up email with the recording within 24 hours. Audio for today's event will be broadcast through your computer speakers. Be sure they are turned on and the volume turned up. All participants have been placed on mute. If at any time you would like to ask a question, please use the question feature. Only the staff will see your questions. And an announcement to our SIM attendees. If you have attended this live webinar, one CEU will be entered on your behalf, provided full attendance. Please note the system records your attendance time and participation level. We have a second webinar this week. On Thursday, December 11 is Underneath It All, How Proper Surface Preparation Defines Flooring Performance, a product webinar presented by Bostic. And coming up early next year is 2 Days to Sim Suwannee. Atlanta Flooring Design Centers will host FCICA for the next in-person SIM training event on February 4 and 5 at their Suwannee, Georgia location. If you are interested in earning your SIM certification in 2 days, please consider participating in this event. And on Friday, February 6th, Atlanta Flooring Design Center will also host FCICA's regional meeting Suwannee. Registration is open for both events. We encourage your attendance and engagement with FCICA via these educational opportunities. These webinars will be included in the post-webinar follow-up email, or you can visit fcica.com under events, where you'll find the full list of upcoming webinars and events. We encourage you to register today. A direct link to the events is also in the chat box. Thank you for joining us today for an introduction to AI tools for everyday use. We are pleased to introduce our speaker, Aaron Abbott. Aaron is a senior technical manager at LATICRETE International. He brings extensive experience and expertise to the building materials industry. Since 2005, Aaron has been a trusted authority in substrate preparation and flooring systems, working closely with architects, specifiers, contractors, and building owners, both domestically and internationally. In his role, he leads product and application technology initiatives, provides education and outreach, and ensures customers achieve flawless flooring projects. Welcome, Aaron. I'm going to turn the controls over to you.
Thanks, Christine, and thanks to everybody who is taking the time to join today. I'll just jump right in and say, look, AI is getting a lot of attention. I'm sure everybody that's on this webinar, is aware that it's driving the stock market, for better or worse, mostly better recently, and it's being used by everybody, whether we want to or not, and I'll get into that. It's certainly causing some concern to certain people. There's sort of some science fiction aspects to AI, especially when you're talking about generalized human intelligence, which it may reach at some point. But we're going to talk today mostly about chatbots and how to use it. Use the AI tools that exist today and that are really free for everybody. And I see it, sort of as an exciting opportunity. The company I work for, LATICRETE, is embracing it from top to bottom. We've actually hired at least 2 full-time AI engineers. Our executive management understands that AI is going to be used by our customers. So we can use it, our customers will use it. It's just something that is a reality for us. So for this webinar, my goals are to provide you with sort of a general introduction. I'm going to be talking about some real world examples of how to use the AI tools that are out there now in your professional lives, and as well as your personal life a little bit. I'm going to try to explain, give some hints as to how to use the chatbots effectively and efficiently. And lastly, talk about some of the pitfalls, which there are many. So AI is being adopted like crazy. Okay, the chatbots especially, which are these free Google-like, almost like search engine-like systems that everybody has access to. If you have access to a computer or a smartphone, you have access to these chatbots. And this generative AI, these large language models, are enabling more human-like, personalized, proactive conversations, basically. A lot of people talk about, it's like the Google search engine on steroids. I think it's even beyond that. In terms of how these companies are making money, the global chatbot market was valued at around $8 billion last year, and is expected to reach something like 30 billion in 2030. It's growing at double digits annually. North America has the largest market share now, but Asia Pacific is the fastest growing market. So a bunch of different industries are already adopting AI. So retail, e-commerce, definitely using chatbots for personalized shopping assistance, order tracking. I mean, we're all used to calling up for customer service and getting a call center sort of response, which can be, it's nice to be able to talk to a human being, but now there's more and more chatbots being used for this purpose, for the simple stuff. And obviously industries like healthcare, banking and finance, these types of industries are using chatbots to help not just their customer service, but also to do things like in the automotive industry, or I should say sort of garages, but car dealerships. 90% of car dealerships in North America right now feature some form of chat support on their websites to handle inquiries and to book service appointments. So I just did this recently. There was no human being involved, booked an oil change and state inspection using chatbots. So chatbots that you might have heard about, ChatGPT is one of the big ones. That's by a company called OpenAI. Gemini is Google's offering, and Copilot is Microsoft's offering. So these chatbots, again, are available at least in some form completely free, and you can pay to get better service. And there's others out there too, Claude, Perplexity, Elon Musk has one. So there's a whole bunch of different chatbots. So we're going to talk today about usage cases, about just some examples of how you might be able to use these chatbots to do some things in your professional life, like, for example, creating a marketing bulletin for your business, writing technical letters, answering emails, do some HR things like self-assessments, annual review, self-assessments, creating business plans, product information, competitive comparison. So these are just some examples of usage cases that hopefully will get your your creativity going with this. So I mentioned earlier that you can't get away from AI. So here's a screenshot of Google that I took this morning. And you notice that on the famous Google search bar, there's an AI mode. And so AI is now integrated into search engines, whether you want to or not. And so just putting in an example in here, I typed in, how do you change, and this is the standard Google interface, how do you change a headlamp on a 2014 GMC Acadia? And this is what Google now spits out. And it starts with an AI overview. So, and you can see down below, there's a YouTube video, and there's, if I scroll down, there's a whole bunch of other, sort of standard Google search engine information. But now, And this is relatively, new. Over the last year, Google started, getting this capability into it, but so it's not avoidable. And you can show more. You can kind of stay right in that AI overview and read the long form, which is sort of a summary of all of the Google stuff that normally would show up. And I'll tell you that I do own a 2014 GMC Acadia, and I have done this process. It's a crazy process. You actually have to remove the fender under the front wheel or at the front wheel and reach in to where the headlamp is. And actually, in this case, I think the YouTube video is probably more useful. But my point here is that AI is integrated into search engines. Okay. Now, ChatGPT is maybe the most well-known chatbot. So what's that look like? So you can download an app that makes it work better on your computer or your phone, but you can actually use ChatGPT directly from your web browser too. So what does the screen look like? It looks a little bit like Google. There's a search bar, ask anything, and there's some stuff on the left side. So one thing you'll notice is that there's like this new chat button that basically starts a new conversation. So if you want to sort of organize your conversations within ChatGPT, down in the bottom left, there'll be a list of past conversations, and ChatGPT picks a title for these and sticks them over here. You can delete them if you want to get rid of them in your chat list. And in the middle, on the left, there's alternate GPTs or alternate chatbot types that are sort of experts in certain things. So, for example, Canva is a sort of a chatbot that is focused on graphics and presentation development and things like that. I think video too. And Scholar GPT is more of sort of a research focused GPT. So these are things that allow you to sort of organize your past chats, and you can go back to them if you had a conversation with AI on, for example, pouring LATICRETE NXT level flow. You can go back to that chat, see what you talked about last week, and kind of continue it. So although it looks like Google, it's a different concept from a search engine. And what I have found is that the way that you phrase your prompt is super important. So just an example here, and I did this example before the college football season had really gotten underway, or it had just gotten underway, and I asked in one sentence who are the best college football teams, and at the time it suggested Ohio State, Penn State, LSU. That changed a little bit. Oregon, Georgia, Miami. Okay, and interestingly, now within the ChatGPT interface, it's also doing a good job at having this little bubble of where it got its answer from. Okay, so it got its answer, this first answer, cbssports.com plus 3 others. Okay, so it'll tell you the sources, which is useful because if it gives you information that you might not agree with or you think might be a little bit funny, you can look at those sources and dig a little bit deeper. You can drill into it. And then the other part that I'll point out is that the chats are iterative or conversational. Okay, so this is different from the traditional Google search engine, right? Because it's remembering that I first asked who are the best college football teams this year. It gave me an answer, and then the second thing I'll say in one sentence, tell me more about Georgia. Why are they considered in the top 5? Okay, and I'll point out that I'm specifically suggesting to ChatGPT to limit the response to one sentence because I've found that the default mode is really kind of giving too much information. So you can kind of guide it towards giving you the types of answer that you are looking for. All right, so it tells me more about Georgia, and then I'm interested in asking it of these players who has the best chance of being drafted early to the NFL. And again, one sentence, please. And it gives me a sentence that predicts that CJ Allen has a strong chance of being drafted. So remember, this conversation, unless you choose to delete it, will be sort of saved in this first screen down sort of at the bottom left. So your past conversations will be down on that bottom left. So if you want to get back later to talking with ChatGPT about college football, you can just click on that and bring it back up. And the other thing I'll just point out at this point, again, this is sort of just an introductory idea at this point, but phrasing of the prompt is super important. So let's actually dive in and create a marketing bulletin. All right, so as I mentioned, I work for LATICRETE, and we have self-levelers that we call NXT Level Plus, for example. So I'm going to create a marketing bulletin. So I just typed in create, spelled that wrong, but create a marketing bulletin for LATICRETE NXT Level Plus. I didn't tell ChatGPT anything else at this point, okay? And here's what it comes up with. Okay, sure, here's a marketing bulletin for LATICRETE NXT Level Plus. So it searched the web. Again, I did not feed it any information in this particular case. It searched the web, it searched other sources of information, and it came up with a potential marketing bulletin. So let's sort of look at this a little bit more closely. And here's where I'll start to point out that you can't necessarily trust the first draft, okay? But it did a pretty good job. I mean, it's talking about introducing the product. It uses words like it's a premium, high performance, and versatile self-leveling underlayment designed to meet your flooring and preparation needs, engineered with advanced cement technology. So that caught my eye. And then I noticed under key features and benefits, rapid setting, so minimize downtime. Your floors will be ready for covering in as little as 24 hours. So I know that that's not exactly accurate. It's actually a little bit faster than that for certain types of floor goods. So I think that could be improved. And it talks about then being eco-friendly. And on the right side under ideal applications, talks about residential projects, commercial spaces, industrial settings, achieve industrial grade performance for warehouses, etc. So that one also caught my eye because I wouldn't necessarily highlight industrial applications for this particular product. We have other products that might be better for that. And then most egregiously, it completely made up some customer testimonials. I don't think that these two quotes from John D., a commercial contractor, and Sarah M., a homeowner, have any basis in reality. So that's the kind of thing you need to watch out for. So as I mentioned, you can iterate your prompt. So after all that, after getting this whole first draft from ChatGPT of my marketing bulletin, I'm going to speak to ChatGPT in a similar way that I would speak to a college intern who's helping in the marketing department. Okay, so, and again, what I found is it sounds funny, but being polite to ChatGPT and thinking about speaking to it as you would a human being, like a college intern, someone with some good general knowledge, but not necessarily expert knowledge, this will go a long way to getting good results. So I say, make this a bit shorter. Also include the key benefit of being able to install it directly over wood substrates without the use of lath. Also make some statements about durability and mention its compressive strength. And I say at the end, delete the testimonials because they were completely false, not true. Okay, so I get this after typing that iterative prompt in, I get something that's a little bit better. All right, so it got rid of my those testimonials at the end. It talked about enhanced durability like I wanted it to talk about compressive strength. And it took the liberty on its own to put in some contact us today stuff at the end here, which is not bad at all. So is this the final draft of our marketing bulletin for LATICRETE NXT Level Plus? No, but does this help? If I have the task of creating a new bulletin, maybe something for email or social media, does this help? I think it does. I think it actually absolutely helps me get started. Okay, so check all the facts, especially technical facts. If you're using ChatGPT to learn about something you have no idea about, be very careful. Because in this case, I created a marketing bulletin on a product that I'm an expert in, and I was able to know where it went wrong, right? But that's not always going to be the case if you're trying to learn something new. So content almost always looks a little awkward in places. It's really good at creating verbiage, but it's not so good necessarily at making it sound natural. Just remember, if you're creating something for your company, you know the industry speak better than it does, right? So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're planning on editing these things your way. So the first drafts can be wordy, and you can tell ChatGPT or any of these other chatbots, you can tell it to limit to a certain amount of sentences or paragraphs. So let's try a technical letter or answering an email. So this is sort of an example email that I received a long time ago, but I'm just using it as an example. And the email was, sorry to bother you while you're on vacation. Hopefully you're having a good time when you get back. Bunch of stuff. Okay, so there were some customers or clients that were working on on creating a bid for a school. And there was a question at the end of this email. The question was, can we leave the LATICRETE product exposed in back of house spaces such as mechanical, electrical rooms and not worry about it cracking or crumbling? All right, so I could have easily written a response to this manually, but just to test this out, here's what I put in the chat box, okay, the ChatGPT search bubble. So I wrote, write a response to this email, answer the question with a yes, and say that the product will be durable in those areas, but that it should be sealed. And then I say, here's the email. And then I did a copy and paste from my email into this search bubble. Just copied it from email, stuck the cursor after my request to ChatGPT, and hit paste. So it pasted that email into the search bubble. These can be quite long, these prompts, okay? And here's what it spit out. A not bad first draft of a simple response. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate your patience while I was away. See, it got that thing about I was on vacation when the email was sent to me. It answers the question. Yes, the product is durable, back of house spaces, should be sealed, just like I asked it to say. Looking forward to reviewing the documents, verifying the budget upon my return. So this is, I didn't need to do this, but for this particular case, but some emails can be answered very quickly, very efficiently, at least a start in this way. So there's sort of an example. All right, so self-assessments. This is something that my company does annually. It's a HR procedure where we are basically assessing our performance against goals and against different characteristics that all work on a software platform called Workday for us. Okay, so one of the things that we need to do is self-assess against certain criteria. One of the criteria that LATICRETE uses is teamwork. So in our software system called Workday, Teamwork is explained as embraces the unique skills, experience, diversity of the team to drive results, etc. So what I typed into ChatGPT was to write a 3-paragraph self-assessment for an annual review focusing on this criteria. So that was my prompt. I then cut and pasted that sort of definition of what my company, how my company defines teamwork into the prompt, and then a little bit of more info for the prompt, which is some examples of what I did, in the review period, real world examples, okay? And it comes back, and notice I don't believe I did not specify anything other than write a 3-paragraph self-assessment. So I didn't try to limit it any more than that. I told it I want 3 paragraphs, and it gave me 3 paragraphs, and it does a pretty good job, at least as a first draft for this type of thing. And it took examples of the definition of what teamwork means to my company and put them in here. So this is really what ChatGPT and some of the other chatbots are really good at. They're good at creating text that looks like, it's well written. Essentially, it's detailed. I remember back when I was in elementary school, middle school, having to write book reports. This ChatGPT technology would have been so welcome for me back then. Of course, schools are dealing with this because this thing just creates language, right? It's a large language model. But for creating something like an explanation where you have good examples of what you did for a self-review, for example, it's potentially a good starting point. Okay. Let's try to create a business plan. Again, these are just examples. There's really an infinite, set of possibilities. But let's create a territory business plan for a technical sales representative for the Cascadia sales territory. Okay. And I type in the main goals are to increase sales by 15% while maintaining margin. The key tactics. Again, these are things that I know that I need to do for this business plan. So I just type them in there. Key tactics: research and begin new sales with new distributors, and 2, identify, build relationships with big customers. So it knows, ChatGPT knows by its large language model research into these things what a territory business plan should sort of look like. So it takes that, and it takes what I told it to put into it, and it creates this thing. Okay, it came out with an executive summary, some objectives which I fed to it, but it's sort of putting them in a numbered list. Very nice. Market analysis, the current overview, etc. It talks about market potential. So again, the point here isn't the details. It's more about the types of things that ChatGPT could be helpful for. Okay, so it can create outlines really easily. Okay, these aren't detailed. These are more, again, this is more of like a template for someone who's maybe doesn't know what that business plan should look like, and then it becomes more fill in the blank. Useful? Yeah, I think it is. All right, product information. I personally use the chatbots for product information every day. And for example, with LATICRETE self-leveling products, concrete and substrate prep products, we have I think it's about a 10-page document called TDS 230. Okay, so that talks about substrate preparation, priming, and getting the floor ready for putting down patches and skims and self-leveling. Okay, and so the document is, again, 10 pages. So here's something you can do with ChatGPT. You can upload a document, like a PDF document, and then tell ChatGPT to be a technical expert in this, and then ask questions about a real world situation and get hopefully answers that are based on sort of the summary of that document. So I'm telling ChatGPT in this example, I say, you will be my technical assistant. I will upload 2 documents. One will be TDS 230, which is an overview of installation guidelines, and the other is a product data sheet for a self-leveler. And then I'll ask questions about how to use the product. And ChatGPT says, sounds great, go ahead and upload the document. So I uploaded TDS 230 and then tried to upload the other document, but it tells me that you need to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus or try again after a certain time. So I just wanted to put that in there to show you that there are limits to the free version of ChatGPT. You can pay and upload much more and use it without restrictions. But anyway, so I got the TDS 230 document into ChatGPT, and then I ask, how do I install over adhesive residue? That's just one of the things that TDS 230 talks about, okay? And it comes up with sort of it spits out a summary about this. It talks about mechanical removal, residual adhesives, primer application, bonding verification. So down at the bottom, there's an important sort of little warning, okay? And I just want to point your attention to this. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. Very important little reminder down there. Because what I found as being a TDS 230 expert myself, that there's, again, a few little problems with the answer that it gave me here. For example, we have in TDS 230, we talk about scraping adhesives to a thin translucent residue by razor scraping. Okay, it's kind of an important little point. And I noticed that in ChatGPT's summary, for answering my question, that it really doesn't talk about that. It says for well bonded adhesives that cannot be removed mechanically, ensure the surface is prepared by doing thorough cleaning of the adhesive residue. I don't really think that is a complete enough answer. And if you look at what's in our document, the wordy version is something that's a little bit different. So again, this is a very powerful technology, but it doesn't always get things completely right. Product comparisons. This is another thing I use, all the time. So here's an example of something that your customers may be doing, and it's good for us, as being, in the flooring industry, to keep in mind that our customers are going to be asking questions on ChatGPT and on Gemini, etc., like this. So just an example, create a table comparing these types of floor goods: 1 LVP, 2 VCT, and 3 sheet vinyl. Include durability, appearance, and cost to install. So this might be a question, it's a valid question for someone who's designing a new office, right? And it might call up your company to install new floor goods. And they may want to research this a little bit and see what flooring is the best. So we ask that question, create a table comparing these types, okay? And it does that. And just keep in mind, not everything showed up here. I think the sheet vinyl was another column, but I couldn't get it on this page. But here's kind of a maybe useful table. So we have feature of durability, appearance, and aesthetics, cost to install, and it's comparing luxury vinyl plank against vinyl composition tile in this case. And like I said, there was also a sheet vinyl column too. So I won't go through all of this, but I'll just point a few things out because this is just an example. So it created a nice little table. one thing you can do with a table like this is you can copy it and paste it into Excel or Word or PowerPoint or whatever you use, and then take it from there to make it more useful for you. You know, if you wanted to sort of preempt a customer's question, you could ask ChatGPT to create a table, and then you can, you know, copy and paste it into Excel. I think with the Google product, if you use the Google Office suite, like I think they have something that's like Excel, it will create that that document for you automatically too, if you want it. But I'll point out that you can see the little bubbles here that show where the information is coming from. So for LVP, it's saying that LVP has very good durability, has a wear layer that resists scratching, scuffs, suitable for high traffic areas. That comes in this case from this source, Spectra. And then there's a source down here that it's more water resistant than VCT, fewer maintenance needs, and that comes from shawcontract.com. And then there's some other, you know, so maybe you see your own company in here. And so it's pulling this stuff from websites, right? It's pulling this stuff from information sources that are on the internet. I think it also can pull from social, and it can pull from published documents that have, you know, in the past that have been added to various libraries, etc. So interesting. I use this all the time to compare. You know, I am asked by our customers to compare products against competing, you know, competitors that make the same, you know, types of products that LATICRETE makes. And this is a good place to start to sort of show, you know, our products versus somebody else's. So now we're going to talk about specifications or a, you know, request for proposal summary. This is, I think, I'm starting to hear that this type of usage case is being used more and more by installers, contractors. So you'll get a specification, for example. So this one here is a 25-page spec for resilient flooring. Okay, and this comes from the New York School Construction, New York City School Construction Authority. They publish their specs. They give them to, you know, their specifiers, their architects, and then contractors will bid based on this spec. You guys know what I'm talking about here. So it's a 25-page document. And what could you use ChatGPT for to make your life easier if you're going to do a bid on this? Well, one thing you could do is add that file. So you can save this 09650 resilient flooring spec from the New York School Construction Authority, save it, and then import it into ChatGPT. Okay, you just click on the plus sign and add a file. So I got that document into the chat bubble, and I send it to ChatGPT. And then I'll say, from this specification document, summarize the substrate preparation and testing requirements. So let's say I'm looking to see what this spec says in particular for what does it require for substrate prep and testing, so that I know ahead of time. Okay. So it's taken this document from, you know, from me, and it has summarized it, and now it's going to answer my question, or try to answer my question. So it says, examine the substrate. The installer must inspect subfloor surfaces to confirm they're clean, dry, flat, smooth, level, free from cracks, holes, ridges, etc. Okay. And that's in there. It talks about concrete subfloors, perform bond tests per manufacturer's installation manual, do moisture tests. It found that this spec recommends that or specifies that the moisture level can't be greater than 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet, 24 hours, and a few other things. Okay, interesting. useful, a little bit. I mean, if you're used to bidding against specs like this, maybe this isn't that useful to you, but if you're looking to get a quick answer, like what are the substrate prep and testing requirements that are in this spec, yeah, it could be useful. So interestingly, at the end of the summary and the answer to my question, it asks this question. This is sort of proactive. So ChatGPT is it answered my question and it's saying, would you like me to also make a checklist style version of these requirements that installers could use in the field? Oh, that's interesting. That could be potentially helpful, right? So I say, yes, let's do that. So it creates this, a checklist. And so this checklist, in theory, could be used by your installing team to take out into the field and just check the boxes, right? So, and I won't get into the details here other than it created this with the little check boxes and bullet points, etc. And then it asked me another question at the end of all this. Would you like me to format this into a one-page field-ready sheet with space for initials and dates so it can be used as a job site compliance record? Sure, I'm going to be polite to my chatbot and say, yes, please do that. That sounds great. And so it gives me two responses now. You might see this type of screen where it says, okay, you're giving feedback on a new version of ChatGPT. Which response do you like better? So it gave two responses. I created a one page and I looked at both of these and I prefer, you might prefer one over the other, but what does it look like? What does the checklist look like? Well, maybe this is a good starting point. It has it created a formatted, colorful substrate preparation and testing checklist for your team. And it did this all within the ChatGPT system. And this is something that I could download and have as a PDF or a Word document, actually. There's a few things. The formatting isn't quite right. The accuracy may not be 100% right. You should check these things. But for example, perform moisture test, must be less than 5 pounds. There was also something else in there about humidity too, which it didn't pick up on, and suitability. Under surface preparation, one of the checklist items is avoid organic solvents. Maybe that's not an appropriate checklist item. I don't know. So it did all this based on me giving it the spec document from the New York School Construction Authority. And I mean, I think this is pretty cool, but the question I'll ask you at this point is, are we getting ahead of ourselves? Because if you go back into the specification document from New York School Construction Authority, at the end, they actually have a checklist for you. All right, it has a list of submittals and date submitted, date approved, sort of a checklist for some of the things that you're going to need as a company that's going to bid on this project. Okay, so make sure you actually read the documents that you are, or at least skim through them. Don't give all of the authority, all of your own agency back to ChatGPT. Don't give it all away. Make sure you're aware of what you're uploading and take a look at the whole thing. Maybe some of this has already been done, and maybe in certain cases the authority that's having you bid is going to want you to use a specific type of form or anything. But anyway, lastly, let's talk about social media posts. Okay, so the kids today, the younger generations, younger than me, are very, very good at social media. I am maybe not as tied into it as my kids are, but no worries. I still want to be part of it. So, hey, maybe I want to put something on LinkedIn. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to help me. So in this case, create a post for, here's my prompt, okay? Create a post for LinkedIn reminding customers of our upcoming LATICRETE live event at the headquarters in Connecticut. We're going to be demonstrating the new product, and we're going to have a contest eligible to win a LATICRETE NivComp elevation survey tool. Okay, so it comes up with a LinkedIn post. It has little icons, looks pretty good. So that's something that you could potentially use as a starting point for a social media post. And it also has a link, actual link to register now, so you can create a form. I think the link that it gave me here is sort of a dummy link, but you can have it create a link that you can include that would go back to an register now type of situation. So to summarize, I know we went through a whole bunch of different examples, and like I said, there's an infinite amount of examples out there, but these are maybe just some things to kind of get you thinking. But here's a summary. Don't trust it completely, ever. Okay, maybe someday it'll be fully 100% trustable, but I kind of doubt it. I think at least in the short term, you need to verify technical details. Mistakes are very common. Another thing to keep in mind is your customers are going to be doing this. Your customers are going to be using AI just like they use Google. And like I showed you, Google itself is now integrated with Google's version of AI, Gemini. So the first thing that comes up, I think you can turn this off, but on my screen at least, it's the first thing that comes up when I Google something on my phone or on my laptop. The first thing that comes up is generally an AI summary. Okay. Remember, customers are going to use it. So do you know what AI will say about your business? Just like we were taught 20 years ago to Google yourself, right? Google your own business. And then we created a whole, we created a whole title called, SEO engineers, right? Search engine optimization specialists who would make sure that when you were Googling your products, that yours would come up first. And that's still a thing, obviously. Now we have to sort of broaden our perspective and not just worry about search engine optimization, but also AI optimization. What will AI say about you and your business? You should be putting yourself in your customer's shoes and playing around with this. The third thing that I hope I explained a little bit is the prompt is super important, and the prompt is what you ask it to do, right? And so start by over explaining what you want. Again, I find that it works better if you're polite and that you are asking the question in the same way that you would ask, say, a college intern in your office or a temporary worker in your office that you have to sort of explain really be careful in asking what you want specifically. How long of a response do you want? Okay, so over explain what you want and iterate. So the prompt's important, and also iterating, going back and fine tuning the answer. If you don't get what you want on that first draft, which you almost never will, tell the chatbot what it needs to change. Redo this, answer this question again, but tell me more about XYZ, okay? Or get rid of, make this more concise, and don't tell me about testimonials, for example. Or maybe you want more testimonials. Maybe you can ask it to give you real, true testimonials instead of making them up. So, but iterate, okay, and multiple drafts. Use that first draft as a starting point. So copying and pasting what ChatGPT and these other chatbots spit out as a first draft will get you in trouble right now, almost always. So if you just want to fill up a page with babble, technobabble, yes, ChatGPT can do that. It can do it well. It can fill up pages and pages, but it's going to get you into trouble if you just copy and paste. You have to read it. You have to check, Make sure you own whatever it is that is coming out. This is a tool to help you. It is not a way to replace you. So I like this quote that I'm going to share just to close this and go to some questions if anybody has any. So this quote was, and now every few months they get better. That's why the AI you're using today, as remarkable as it might seem to you, is the dumbest AI you're ever going to encounter. And I found that to be 100% true because just since we gave this a similar presentation at the Synergy, the FCICA Synergy convention in Nashville a few months ago, and in that, from then to now, a whole bunch of things about the capabilities of these chatbots has changed. And I'm sure next year this time, if we do a little update to this, it's going to be a completely different situation. So that's where I will leave it, and I'll open up to questions. Christine, are there any questions coming in?
Yes, thank you, Aaron. If the audience has questions, please enter them in the question feature now. Aaron, the first question is, general AI and LLMs are great, but could you shed some light on other tools and use cases? For example, note taker and meeting booking, etc.?
Yeah, that's something that's happening now that's new with these note taking. There's actually devices. Okay, so one of my teammates has recently purchased this thing called Claude, I believe it is. Okay, Claude, and it's a little like stack. It looks like a stack of 5 credit cards. It's very thin and it's about the size of a credit card. And it's basically a digital recorder, and it is a great example of, being able to summarize meetings. So my coworker uses this for summarizing meetings, and he did an example of a group meeting that we had on Teams, and not only does it just transcribe all of the conversations, but it knows who's talking. So it knew when I was talking versus him and other, 3 or 4 other people. It summarized all of the points of the meeting in bullet points. And it also summarized at the end action items. And we didn't necessarily in this meeting talk about like, okay, Aaron has an action item of doing this by, December 15th. XYZ. We just talked about, okay, well, I'll take that, that type of thing, sort of informal, I'll take it, but it created a list of action items for everybody that was in the meeting that sort of piped in and said, hey, that they were going to do something or follow up, So I believe the name of that device, I got to buy one. I don't have one yet. It's not that expensive, but there's a subscription, obviously, after you use it a certain amount of hours or after it does a certain, amount of summaries that you have to pay for the service, but super, super cool and dangerous. I mean, you can wear this thing and have it record your day-to-day conversations if you want. So that was really cool.
Next question is, have you found a way that ChatGPT will convert Word into PDF or Excel?
Well, it has created Excel sheets for me, or at least tables, which I then just can, like I show it on my screen and I select all the text and I copy and paste into Excel. That's what I've done. But it also, the Google version can create a Google spreadsheet. If you have a Google account, it can automatically create that spreadsheet for you. I'm not sure about Excel. I'm almost certain that the Copilot, the Copilot system will do that because that's a Microsoft system. So check that out. That's a good question. I'll look into that. PDFs, yes, it can. I believe it can create PDFs, and if not, it can definitely create like a Word document or the Google version of a Word document, and then you can save it as something different. Some of these things like PDF obviously is proprietary, and Adobe wants you to buy their Adobe Acrobat so that you can make PDFs or buy some sort of add-on to your your documents.
As it pertains to that question Ben just stated, also just as an advisory, EM dashes are a dead giveaway.
Good point.
Next question is, would you recommend using AI tools in agentic mode, allowing to interact with your browser or other apps?
Yeah, so that's a whole new thing. Like I mentioned, next year at this time, I'm sure if we did this presentation next year at this time, there'd be a whole bunch of updates, and that's going to be one of the big things is agentic, or using your chatbot as an agent. So right now, it just sort of, what I talked about in this presentation was having it sort of spit out information to you, and then you can do something with it. But you can do things like with using agents to book hotel reservations and flights if you give that authority to it, right? So there's systems out there to do this. You can say, hey, I want to go to a tropical island for vacation next February. Can you just go ahead and book something for me? What do I like? I like palm trees and hammocks, and I want to do some snorkeling, and that type of thing. And then you could give it all the authority in the world. Don't even have to check back with me. I wouldn't do that myself yet. But those types of agents where you give permission to, for example, book hotels, or to book a flight, or to make a dinner reservation, that is definitely coming, and it'll be adopted, I think, a little bit more slowly, but it's definitely going to be a thing.
Next question. Do you recommend one AI tool over another?
I've been primarily using ChatGPT and Google's Gemini. I like them both. They both have, Gemini is getting really good very quickly. It seems to be, because it's a Google product, it's very heavily integrated with their search engine. So I feel like maybe it has a slight edge in terms of, information that's just been published on the web, or things that are more up to date. It seems to be a little bit better like that. So, but Gemini has a really cool feature, by the way, for an iPhone, which you can get the Gemini app, and there's a feature where you can just have a verbal conversation with the chatbot, and you can interrupt it. You can say, while it's speaking, you can say, hold on, stop, you're giving me too much on this. Can you, whatever? And that's pretty cool. I've used it in the car a few times to just get some information that I was researching, just a back and forth conversation. So that's pretty cool.
Next question. How do you use ChatGPT and still keep proprietary info private?
Yeah, so there's some settings. I would definitely advise anybody who's going to share anything that's sensitive, proprietary information, confidential information. First of all, I don't think I'd put maybe company confidential into a search engine or ChatGPT or anything directly. Okay, there's a whole bunch of techniques you could use to change words to before you if you really wanted to try to do that, you can sort of edit your document that you're going to upload first, or edit your prompt so that you're not giving away the farm. And there's some settings within ChatGPT, and the other ones have a similar setting that you should turn off this setting about using your prompts and the conversations that you have, using that to train the system. So there's a switch for that. It's under settings.
Next question. When does it make sense to buy a plan?
I'm ready. I haven't yet. Actually, I haven't personally purchased anything yet. And there's, you know what? There's so many of them that, like, if I run out of time on ChatGPT, I'll go over to Gemini. So I doubt that will be an option forever. But you know, I think the cheapest ChatGPT plan that I saw, and I haven't looked at it recently, but it wasn't that expensive. You know, I don't know, $20 a month or something like that. So I think, you know, use the free version first. And, you know, if you find that it's not working for you, or if it's telling you to wait, you know, you used it too much, then, you know, you might want to consider paying for it. I think I will probably pay for one of them at some point soon, but I haven't yet.
Next question. Will AI replace the technical service call centers?
So for our industry, the flooring industry, I don't see that happening soon. There's just too many little innuendos. The human touch is, you know, the human connection is super important. But it's going to be used, I think, you know, LATICRETE's already using it within our tech service groups to assist. You know, for example, if a spec calls out a certain you know, international standard, an ISO standard or an ASTM standard, you might be able to, you know, get some information on that to give you some background so you can better answer your customers' questions. So I think that the chatbots, at least by LATICRETE, we're using them to help make our answers to our customers from humans better.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. That is all the questions that were submitted. Certainly, if anybody thinks of additional questions after we close the webinar, you can email those to me or Aaron, and if you email them to me, I'll forward them on to Aaron. That concludes today's webinar. Aaron, any final statements?
Christine, thank you as always for hosting this. FCICA is great, and really appreciate being part of it, and hope everybody got a little bit of something out of this today.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Again, some closing reminders. Attendees will receive a go-to email with a recording of this webinar in 24 hours. And just as a reminder, the link to the event listings is in the chat, and you can click on it now to be directed to the website to learn more and register for Thursday's webinar. Again, thank you, Aaron, and thank you everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks.